But so to your point too, I think we live in such interesting times because, of course, we're very much feeling here the rise of the Asian century, the Asian century. Are they the newcomers that will perhaps change this paradigm? And, Scott, you spent a bit of time there, so...
No, it's an interesting question and an interesting thing to discuss. There's a couple countervailing forces that you see. One, just by pure demographics, it is not an accident that China and India will ultimately be the world's two largest economies. It's the way it was for most of human history. The anomaly is over the course of the past 200 years, where you've had Western Europe and the United States be such dominant players. But ultimately, order will be restored, just given the pure numbers. How long it takes, who knows, but it will happen. The thing that I struggle a little bit with, I moved out to Asia a few years ago because you can feel the innovation energy in this part of the world. But when I look at the people who are starting the businesses, at least, that have the potential to transform industries, whether it's startups in 3D personalized manufacturing or people doing so-called big data analytics or personalized medicine or distributed sensing technology and on and on and on, they're in Western Europe and they're in the United States. So you haven't yet seen true entrepreneurialism, the creation of industry-changing businesses out in Asia Pacific yet. You mostly still have today people who say, oh, that's a good idea, let's do it faster and cheaper, or let's twist it for our local context. I think there's going to be a next wave, but that has not happened yet. So I'm always reminded in these things of Amara's law that we always overestimate the impact of change in the short run and underestimate it in the long run. I think the Asia century economically is going to take probably a little longer to happen, but when it comes, it might happen more deeply than people think.
I'm wondering if we're looking, though, in the wrong place for innovation. And if we equate innovation with a new idea or a new venture or a new product, obviously that's important, and I think, Tom, that's where a lot of your work has focused. But if I think about the work we've been involved in innovating in complex social systems, whether it's healthcare or food or social services, actually that's not usually the important locus of innovation. The important locus of innovation is often relational innovation. It's not that I have a new idea, but I'm connected to others in a different way, or there's a trust or an alliance or some kind of shared vision. And so if we equate innovation with new ideas and not pay attention to the relational innovation, we may be surprised that societies that are better at forming networks and relationships of trust motor past the individualists in a way that surprises us. So I just wonder, in China, for example, it may be, or in the Asia Pacific, it may well be, I don't know, that the innovation that you're focusing on is lesser, but yet the capacity to organize, to be able to effectively implement, is much greater.
I think just one quick response. I think two quick responses, sorry. I think certainly if you look at what really drives impact in industries, it's more things that are what we would call business model innovations that I think share some similarity to the relational areas that you talk about. So certainly it's not just products and services, they're often not new. It's just ways to organize things in different ways. And I think it's fair to say the organization of the future has got to be more connected. It has to be bring things together. It's a network, it's an ecosystem, et cetera. And I do believe the conditions are right in places in Asia for these things to happen. They just haven't happened as of yet.
I think that one of the things I look at as a futurist is, as a precursor for change, is the sheer volume of experimentation that's happening in a certain area. Once the level of experimentation starts ramping up, it reaches a certain level. It's like white corpuscle. Something's going to break through and cause change to happen. So there's certain industries that have notoriously been resistant to change. The power industry is an example. We're seeing just tremendous amounts of experimentation happening there. That, in my mind, is a good indicator something is going to change, something's going to break through. We don't know what it is just yet, but that's a good indicator.
I was going to give a few examples of where I think Asia is actually leapfrogging in really interesting ways, and these are kind of live examples, so nobody knows where they'll end up. First one is the city of Seoul. Seoul was the first big city in Asia to elect a civil society candidate as mayor about a year ago. And one of the many things he's doing, he's got a lot of power and money, it's a city of 11 million people, is taking dramatically further forward what we would call collaborative consumption platforms. So using online platforms to allow citizens to share cars, household equipment, time, a whole series of things in a shared form to allow us to live a better quality of life with less resource use, less money spending, and so on. Now, that's a sort of set of ideas which exist in Europe and North America and Australia, but they're being taken to a dramatically bigger scale and sort of integrated across public sector, private, and civil society. Second example is what Nanda Nilekani is doing in India, the Universal Identifier Project, which is trying to give every Indian an identifier. But rather than just doing it as a number, they're doing it in order to create the basis for a completely different way of handling welfare payments, banking, and particularly in the Indian context, to make it much harder for the intermediaries to siphon off money and corruption. Again, it's a scale of ambition and execution across three sectors, unmatched in any of the Western world. And in the social innovation space, China is becoming really interesting because some of the best examples there are of a scale which, again, don't exist in the West. So we've been involved in running a prize within China on social innovation projects. This year's winner in Shenzhen is a social enterprise of 3,000 disabled people providing a set of services to businesses and making a profit and doing it really well. Whereas their equivalents in most Western countries might have 100 or 200. So there's a lot of examples of these kinds, and they all straddle the sectors. They're being done fast and to scale. And one of the things we're doing at my organization as a research program is looking at the innovation methods, particularly in India and China, which we need to learn from now. And I agree, even a few years ago, on the high-tech stuff, they're still behind. But many of these areas of advance are not high technology, they're about technology application. But they're creating value.
We have had a wonderful insight so far. We've been going nearly an hour. We're going to have a very short break to give you a chance to just move around a little bit and have some wonderful speakers to have a drink. We'll be coming back with a little entertainment break, and then it's going to be your chance to put some questions to the panel. So please put your hands together for them.